You're sitting at the dealership, and the salesperson slides a piece of paper across the desk. $487 a month, they say with a smile. That's totally doable, right? I mean, that's less than most people spend on their rent. And you think to yourself, yeah, actually, that is doable. You're making decent money. $487 doesn't sound that bad. So, you sign. And here's the thing. You just made one of the most expensive financial decisions of your life, and you have absolutely no idea.
My name is Self-Study, and I spend way too much time thinking about why regular people keep making the same financial mistakes over and over again. If you're someone who feels like you're doing everything right, you've got a steady job, you're paying your bills, you're being responsible, but you still can't seem to get ahead financially, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out.
Look, I need to tell you something that's going to sound extreme at first, but just hear me out. Car payments are quietly destroying your ability to build wealth. And I'm not talking about some marginal difference. For a lot of people, this is the difference between retiring at 65 and working until 75. I'm talking about the difference between having $500 in your bank account and having $500,000. Here's what most people don't realize. When you have a car payment, you're not just losing the $487 a month or whatever your payment is. You're losing something way, way bigger. But before we get into that, let me show you where we are as a country right now, because these numbers are absolutely insane. According to Experian's 2024 Automotive Finance Report, the average new car payment in America is $726 per month. Let me say that again, $726. For a used car, it's $533. And here's the really scary part. The average loan term is now 68 months for new cars. That's almost 6 years. 6 years of your life where you're going to be writing a check for over $700 every single month. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but that's just how it is now. Cars are expensive. Everyone has a car payment. What am I supposed to do, walk everywhere? And that's exactly the mindset that keeps people trapped. See, we've normalized car payments to the point where they're just considered part of life, like rent or groceries. Except here's the thing, they're not. They're a choice, and it's a choice that's costing you everything. Let's do some math here, because this is where it gets really interesting. Let's say you're 25 years old, and you decide to always have a car payment. You get a new car every 6 years, which honestly, that's pretty conservative. A lot of people trade in way more often. And you pay that average $726 a month. From age 25 to age 65, that's 40 years. 40 times $726 a month times 12 months, that's $348,480. You will have paid over $250,000 just in car payments over your working life. But wait, and this is the part that keeps me up at night, that's not actually the real cost, because you're not just losing the $348,480, you're losing what that money could have become. If instead of making car payments, you invested that $726 a month in a basic S&P 500 index fund that returns an average of 10% per year, do you know what you'd have after 40 years? Well, over $3 million. Depending on returns, that could grow into several million over a working lifetime. I'm going to let that sit for a second. Car payments versus millions of dollars. That's not a typo. That's the actual opportunity cost of always having a car payment. Now here's where this gets really psychological. When you walk into a dealership, they don't talk to you about the total price of the car. They don't say, hey, this car is going to cost you $43,560 plus interest. They say, what monthly payment works for your budget? This is deliberate. This is a sales tactic that's been refined over decades because $726 a month sounds manageable. It sounds like something you can absorb into your budget. But $43,560, that sounds like a massive purchase that requires serious thought. Look,
They've turned buying a car into buying a monthly payment. And once you're thinking in terms of monthly payments instead of total cost, you've already lost. Because now they can extend the loan term, they can increase the interest rate, they can add in all these extras, and as long as the monthly payment stays around that number you said you could afford, you're probably going to say yes.
Here's something that most people don't realize about car loans. For the first 2 years of your loan, you're underwater. Your car is worth less than you owe on it, way less. A new car loses 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. According to Carfax, by the end of year 1, it's lost 30% of its value. But your loan balance? That's barely gone down because most of your early payments are going toward interest. So let's play this out. You buy a $45,000 car with $3,000 down. You finance $42,000 at 7% interest for 72 months. After 1 year, you've paid $8,712 in payments, but your loan balance is still $36,200. Meanwhile, your car is now worth about $31,500. You're $4,700 underwater. And this is where the trap closes, because now you can't sell the car without coming up with extra cash. You're stuck. So when that 6-year loan is finally up, what do most people do? They trade it in for another new car and start the whole cycle over again.
And we haven't even talked about all the other ways car payments drain your money. When you have a newer, more expensive car, your insurance is higher, sometimes way higher. We're talking an extra $100 to $200 a month compared to driving a paid-off older car. Registration fees? Higher. Maintenance? Well, sure, newer cars need less maintenance, but when they do need it, it's more expensive because everything is computerized and you need to go to the dealership. But here's the cost nobody calculates: the stress cost, the mental burden cost. When you have a $726 car payment, you can't leave a job you hate. You can't take a risk on a business idea. You can't take 3 months off to figure out what you really want to do with your life. You're trapped because you have this massive fixed expense that's due every single month, whether you're employed or not. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this all sounds terrible, but what's the alternative? I need a car. I don't have $45,000 in cash sitting around. And that's fair. So let me show you a different way. Let's say instead of buying a $45,000 new car, you save up $5,000 and buy a reliable used car. And I'm not talking about a clunker that's going to break down every week. I'm talking about a 2015 Honda Accord or Toyota Camry with 80,000 miles on it. These cars will easily last another 100,000 miles if you maintain them. Now you take that $726 you would have been paying in car payments and you do something different with it. You put it in a savings account every single month. Here's what happens. Every 6 to 12 months, you save up enough to upgrade. You sell your current car, add your savings, and buy something better, all cash. Within 2 to 3 years, you're driving a $15,000 to $20,000 car that you own outright. No payments, ever. But here's where it gets really interesting. After you've got a reliable car that's paid off, you don't need to keep upgrading. Now you can take that full $726 and invest it. And remember those millions we talked about earlier? You're on track for that.
Now, I can already hear the objections. But what about repairs? Old cars break down all the time. Look, here's the math on that. Let's say you drive a paid-off used car and you have a really bad year. You spend $3,000 on repairs. That's terrible, right? That's a lot of money. $3,000 divided by 12 months is $250 a month. You know what's $250 a month? A third of what people are paying in car payments. And most years, you're not spending $3,000 on repairs. Most years, you're spending $500 to $1,000 on maintenance and maybe one repair. The math isn't even close. Even in the worst-case scenario, you're still coming out way ahead. But I want a nice car. I work hard. I deserve to drive something nice. And I get that. I really do. But here's my question. Would you rather drive a nice car at 30 and be broke at 65? Or drive a decent car at 30 and be a multi-millionaire at 65? Because those are your options. And honestly, once you get rid of the car payment and you start seeing your net worth actually grow, driving a paid-off car feels way better than driving a brand new car ever did, because you're not driving a car, you're driving freedom. We need to talk about why people really buy new cars, because it's not just about transportation, it's about status. It's about showing the world that you've made it. But here's what most people don't realize. High-income households are significantly more likely to buy used cars. One study found that 61% of people earning over $250,000 a year buy used. Meanwhile, people making under $100,000, they're way more likely to buy new. The people who look rich are usually the ones going into debt to look that way. The people who are actually rich, they're buying used Toyotas and investing the difference. And nobody cares about your car as much as you think they do. You're paying for 6 years of debt for 3 seconds of attention.
Let's zoom out for a second and look at how this affects your entire financial life. When you have a $726 car payment, it's not just that $726 that's the problem. It's all the other financial decisions you can't make because of it. You can't build an emergency fund as fast, so when something unexpected happens, you go into credit card debt. You can't invest as much in your 401k, so you miss out on employer matching and decades of compound growth. You can't save up for a down payment on a house as quickly, so you rent longer and miss out on building equity. One bad financial decision, always having a car payment, cascades into a dozen other financial problems, and before you know it, you're 45 years old wondering why you're not further ahead when you've been doing everything right.
So here's what you do. If you currently have a car payment, your goal is to get rid of it as fast as humanly possible. Not because I'm telling you to, but because the math is undeniable. First, stop thinking you're going to keep this car for the full loan term. You're not. Your goal is to pay it off early. Take any extra money you can find, tax returns, bonuses, side hustle income, and throw it at the car loan. Every extra payment goes straight to the principal and saves you interest. Second, the moment that car is paid off, do not, I repeat, do not celebrate by trading it in for a newer model. This is where most people reset the cycle. Instead, keep driving that paid-off car and keep making that payment to yourself. Put it in a high-yield savings account or an investment account. Third, when your paid-off car eventually needs to be replaced, and we're talking 5, 7, 10 years down the line, you pay cash for your next car. You've been saving that payment amount all along, so you have the money. And you buy something reasonable, something reliable, not something that impresses the neighbors.
Look, here's the thing that I think about all the time. Car payments are just one example of a much bigger problem. We've been sold this idea that debt is normal, that monthly payments are just part of life, that everyone does it this way, so it must be fine. But it's not fine. Every monthly payment you have is a piece of your freedom that you're giving away. Every loan you take out is a bet against your future self. And the companies that profit from this, the car companies, the banks, the lenders, they're counting on you never doing the math. They're counting on you thinking in terms of monthly payments instead of total cost. They're counting on you prioritizing how you look today over how you'll live in 30 years. They're counting on you staying trapped in the cycle. But you don't have to. You can be the person who breaks the cycle. You can be the person who drives a paid-off car while everyone around you is drowning in payments. And yeah, it might feel weird at first. It might feel like you're falling behind because you're not driving the newest thing. But give it 5 years, 10 years. Watch your friends who are making the same money as you, maybe even more, and they're still struggling, still living paycheck to paycheck, still stressed about money. While you've got options. You've got savings. You've got investments growing. You've got actual wealth.
I'm going to end with this. Your car payment is not inevitable. It's a choice. And every month you make that payment, you're choosing temporary satisfaction over long-term wealth. You're choosing to impress people who don't care over building a life that you actually want. When you factor in the payments themselves plus the investment growth you give up, the real cost can easily reach into the millions of dollars. It's not what you pay, it's what you never get the chance to build. So, the question is, are you going to be average or are you going to be the person who figures this out? Get rid of the payment, buy used, pay cash, invest the difference. It's not sexy, it's not exciting, but it works. And 20 years from now, when you're financially free and everyone else is still grinding to make their payments, you're going to be really, really glad you made the change. If this video helped shift your perspective on car payments, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe, because I make videos like this every week about the financial decisions that are quietly ruining your life and how to fix them. Drop a comment below and let me know. Do you currently have a car payment, or are you team paid off car? I read every comment. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.